I know it's been a while. Actually, it's been a very long time since we last sit here and talked on this here YouTube. And if you're watching this video, please hit the subscribe button because we're back. No, literally, we're really back this time. And the reason why we're back is because the full agenda that I've been preaching for a very long time, Eustass, Captain D, Kid, and one Kizaru are now in the fray in the main story. Well, Kid was already in the main story, but now he's in the main story with someone we've been anticipating for years. I had the red bond on because, you know, Battle of the Redheads, and I even got my film red shirt on because, you know, Battle of the Redheads. But without further ado, cue the music. You guys have been here before. You know how I get down. I'll play the music and I talk. Chapter 1076 has come and gone, and now people are really enjoying the aftertaste. And the taste that's left in my mouth is, damn, these redheads about to go crazy. Yeah, it sounded just as yeah. But anyway, we move, okay? You see now at the end of chapter 1076, we see Eustass, Captain D, Kid, and find out he lost his arm not to the red hair himself, to possibly a member of his crew, Ben Beckman. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about what's to happen. The past is the past, ladies and gentlemen. We can't change it. What is done is done. But what's to come is what I'm anticipating the most. You see, right now I feel as though Eustass, my Captain Kid, is getting the MC treatment. Sort of like how Buggy got it. Everything Buggy talked about came true. Buggy was feeling his way to success, and he kept climbing time after time. You see, Eustass is a person who really got it out of the mud. He didn't have the Dark King ready to train him. He didn't have the 2-year time skip. He didn't have the mythical god Devil Fruit. He didn't have the training in Udon. He didn't have Nico Robin to read the Ponyless, but here he is. Elbath, Ponyless, facing another Yonko after defeating one. 3 Billy Bounty, the Chief, the Boss, Elbath with Dorian Broggy called back to Little Garden. Come on now, folks. If we're really sitting and thinking about it, Eustass Kid is in the fray, and Otis is not going to toss him to the side. No. You see the parallel, the rival between him and Luffy, right? People are talking about it. He's a rival to Luffy, has no haki. Why? Has the metal Devil Fruit and is awakened already. When the mind and body catch it to the power. Eustass is a very intelligent being, man. He creates metal beings from scratch with scraps. Yes, I'm hyping him up, but guess what? Shanks has had 20 years of hype. My man walks into one panel, the crowd goes crazy. Eustass has a menacing smile, I go crazy. It's the Battle of the Redheads, man. One has a scar, one has an arm, one has red hair. Actually, make it both of them because it's going to be a battle. Whoever wins, winner takes all. Worst generation versus the new era. No, new era versus the old era. The worst generation versus the old. And I got my money on my captain, Eustass D. Kid. Without further ado, let's get into it. So here we have it. Eustass D. Kid is at Elbath, and everyone's going crazy because, yes, him going to Elbath before in the earlier panels were like, oh, this is very interesting how this is going to play out. Eustass going to Elbath, maybe there's a poneglyph, and everyone had the question, is actually Elbath Shanks' territory? And after chapter 1076, all our questions have been answered. Yes, Shanks is not only the chief of the boss, but it looks like he is the herald emperor or the ambassador of one Elbath. And that might be why Shanks is able to meet with the Gorosei. We have no idea. Because throughout the series, everyone has talked about why the giants, or everyone has hyped up the giants, even the ancient giants, and how they're this massive force, and how if Big Mom had the giants, she would have took over the world, how the world government is trying to recreate giants. And if that's the case, if Shanks is the man in Elbath, then it makes sense why he can possibly meet with the Gorosei, because in the master of Elbath, the man who can make the giants move is a very important man. And if Shanks is going to have to fight a war at Marineford, he's like, yo, giants, pull up. Everyone's like, yeah, let's not do that. And an emperor with giants is a bad mix. And this is one person who's going to be taking that on to the face in full force. My MC question mark. The reason why I say the MC, and I'm talking about Eustass Captain the Kid, is because Eustass has a very MC aura around him, right? He has a lot of challenges ahead of him that many people think he won't be able to succeed, but somehow, some way be written that he does. On the other hand, Eustass has 20 years of hype for a man that everyone's been wanting to see fight and everyone loves so much. So it's basically him versus not only Shanks, but him versus the fans. Because say Kid does everything he needs to do and maybe win, it ain't gonna be good for half of the people. Everyone is going to be up in arms saying, we waited this long for this person, but guess what? That's happened before. We waited a very long time to see King fight. We were very disappointed. We got hyped up about the Toby Ropo. We were very disappointed. So disappointment happens. You got hyped up for the end of Wano. A lot of people complained. I liked it, but hey, we got hyped up and we're disappointed. So, hey, don't shoot the messenger. But the reason why I'm saying the MC is because, like I was saying before in the intro, Kid really got it out of the mud. Kid didn't have anything. And the more we go through One Piece, the more we realize certain aspects can be applied to Kid's potential, which we're going to talk about later. But Kid was already awakening this Devil Fruit. And we saw that Luffy wasn't even able to awaken his Devil Fruit until after he got the advanced Haki, after he unlocked Conqueror's Coding, after basically dying. But here we have Eustass Kid in the New World fighting multiple Yonkos, fighting Sweet Commanders, fighting commanders, and fighting the right hand or left hand or Big Mom, well, not right hand or left hand, but like fighting these commanders without Haki. Like imagine you went up against Katakuri with his speed, Katakuri with his future sight, Katakuri with his advanced armament, essentially would have smoked Kid out of his boots. Maybe? Who knows? And the reason why I'm saying he has empty treatment, because I don't think Oda's placing Kid here just for him to fall. You know, like, yes, we had that whole thing with Law, and then we got the plan with taking on Doflamingo, taking on Doflamingo, so then taking on the Smile Factory so Kaido can take out Doflamingo, this, that, and the third. But right now, I really do enjoy Kid because not only is he an intelligent person, my man has really got it out of the mud. When I talk about no Haki, but in the New World, talk about no Nika Robin to read Poneglyphs, was able to know about the man with the burn scar, know about Poneglyphs to begin with, talking about a man who awakened his Devil Fruit with no intelligence about Devil Fruits, like having Vegapunk on his side now. This man is truly showing you why he can really get it done in the New World with the things he has. And now since he was exposed to things that other people were exposed to before, we may get a little different conversation now going forward. And that's why I'm really enjoying Kid, because Kid truly embodies what an MC is. Like Luffy did it, but Kid is really doing it, all right? And I just want to quickly talk about the Devil Fruit before we talk about potential later on. But people have this misconception that Kid is not creative with his Devil Fruit. And I just like the fact that this bird is here right now. I know you can't see, it's a little cut off on the screen. But I want you to think, the reason why Kid is able to do this, remember, Kid's power isn't to just attract, Kid's power is only to attract metal. Like, the things he creates and holds together are all built by him instantaneously with scrap metal, no plans in his mind. And I just want you guys to think about this, right? Damned Punk, the laser, they're basically the railgun that he created. He's able to create a railgun, like Vegapunk's able to reproduce Kizaru's power by himself. We don't know if he got the schematics from Vegapunk. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But at the same time, he's able to create those things. He may be able to create the bull. He's able to create Punk Gibson. Yes, how he applies all of it is like very rudimentary and very basic or caveman-like. But at the same time, like, he has no Haki. And it's no different than Luffy using Gear 2nd, Gear 3rd, and Gear 4th. Luffy created these new forms in order to amplify what he needed to do at that time. Gear 2nd speed, Gear 3rd attack power, Gear 4th the application of Haki. Kid doesn't have Haki, but hell, if you put Haki on the Punk Gibson, if you put Haki on the bull, if you put Haki on the railgun, and he could possibly attach the railgun to Haki. Listen, man. Let's be real. Yes, I understand that in the fight between Big Mom and Law, it was more or less highlighted that Law was doing more damage, but at the same time, Kid was putting in those punches. Now, you give Kid Haki. You give Kid even basic armament. Crazy, but right. I'm getting too ahead of myself. That's for potential. Let's reel it in and let's move on, because now we're going to talk about the fleets, plural. There's 2, question mark? Actually, there's 3. We'll talk about all 3. Well, right now, Kid is pulled up to Elbath, and he's saying he's basically saying there are ships docked at the shore, and there are ships attacking us right now, and they're all basically noteworthy pirates, but they all work under Shanks. And it's very interesting, right? So we don't know if Shanks always travels with his fleet, but if you go back to in the animation a little bit more, but it's not just the main crew we see. Like, we see that Shanks is always followed by a lot of pirates, right? And now we see Shanks has all his fleets, and they're mobilizing, right? Which means to me that when he says I'm going to claim the One Piece, he means I'm going for a full sweep, 4-0, Like, I ain't pulling punches. I'm pulling up on everyone I think has a poneglyph, and I'm taking it. He probably has the one on Elbath, and he needs 3 more. If he gets one from Kid, then he'll have 2. If you get, maybe 3, because maybe Kid got 1 from Big Mom's territory, so then Shanks would have 3. And the last one he needs is the one on Zoe. Maybe, right? But Shanks like, yo, guys, yeah, it's time. You mean it, boss? Yeah, I mean, Kaido's out of the picture now, so it's pretty easy. Like before, like I was tentative. I was a little dip my toe in the water, like not too much. But now I'm like, yeah, I mean, Kaido's out of the picture. I like Luffy, so I mean, me and Luffy could basically hash it out at the end, but it may not go like he planned. And the reason why I'm saying this now is because if Kid is so confident to go against Shanks' fleet, isn't that really like Kid is smart, right? Like when Kid was going against like Kaido and Big Mom, like obviously like he like wanted to fight a Yonko, but he's so wary. He's so like, okay, man, this might not be the smartest thing. But if he pulled to the shore, knows that not only the fleet is there, but also Shanks is there. Actually, yeah, he knows Shanks is there. I was gonna say maybe he doesn't know Shanks is there because he's just fighting the people who works under Shanks. But I think, basically what Killer was saying that I think Kid does know Shanks is on Elbath. But since he knows that they're on Elbath, right, and that Shanks is there with his fleet, entire fleet, Shanks too. I don't think he may not know that the Giants are coming. But if that's the case, and Kid was beat one-sidedly, what gives him the confidence now that he could possibly go against Shanks's fleet by himself and Shanks, right? It doesn't make much sense. That's what I'm saying. Like maybe he just has the MC mindset. Like, yo, listen, screw it, we going for it. Like that's like Luffy when Luffy was missing. Luffy's like, yo, let's go. Yeah, it's the Marines headquarters. I don't care. Let's go. And Shanks is like, and Kids now is like, let's go. Hey, let's go. Let's do it. And the reason I want to talk about the fleets is now because there's 2 fleets I want to mention right now. One is a fleet we already know about. It is the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Realistically speaking, we don't know where they are, but we do know people who are part of the Grand Fleet, and that is Hyrule, the captain of the new giant pirates, right? And the reason why this may play into a factor is because of the situation that was happening once Shanks was leaving Wano. Shanks was talking about going after Bartolomeo, and essentially, in that sense, the reason why he's going after Bart is because Bart basically declared war against the red-haired pirates by taking over their territory, burning down his flag, and then putting up the Straw Hat's flag. So essentially, yes, Shanks knows that Bart is part of them, but at the same time, do the rest of the Grand Fleet know that know Luffy's relationship with Shanks? Because if they don't, that adds a little bit more implications to the situation. Because if they know Bart got captured, Hyrule knows that Shanks went to Elbath, and then at the same time, they also know that the reason why Bart got captured is because of the whole situation with Bart burning the flag. It could be a situation where if Hyrule is going back, he may call a couple of people like, yo, listen, Red here took one of our people. He's on my land. Like, that's not happening. But at the same time, the reason why it's a little bit more confusing is because if Shanks is the chief and if Elbath really is Shanks' territory, what would Hyrule do, right? In that situation, his hands are almost tied. So, like, let's place Luffy in that situation, right? So now Luffy's there instead of Kid, and then Hyrule pulls up. And if Shanks is truly the ambassador of Elbath, what does Hyrule do, right? Does he like, okay, do I fight with Luffy because I'm part of the Grand Fleet? Or do I realize that Shanks is the ambassador and I fight alongside Shanks? Well, Hyrule already pledged himself, drinking the sake cup, that he's a brother of Luffy's. I'm the Grand Fleet. If you ever need help, I'm going to come. And the Giants already shown that they're willing to fight over the simplest of things, the size of a dinosaur caught. So if you mean to tell me that if Hyrule and his new giant pirates are gonna fight Dorian Bragi and the old giants, I bet my money that Hyrule's just gonna fight on Luffy's side rather than Shanks' side, because at that point he's part of Luffy's armada. But the reason why I'm saying the fleet's coming, because like if Hyrule does come and he realizes 2 things, not just 2 things. One, Shanks captured Bart, and Bart's one of my brothers, right? 2, Kid allied with Luffy to take down Yonkos. So it's like, okay, he's an ally of Luffy, so am I. If Shanks is going to be a hindrance to Luffy, let me take him out too with Kid. And the third thing to think about is the fact that Hyrule was the kid with the whole situation with Big Mom, and Kid is the one who took her down. And if that's the case, why would he turn his back on not only his benefactor for taking down Big Mom, Luffy's ally, but also a person who's taking one of his brothers? So now you have fleet on fleet. So the Straw Hat Grand Fleet may be the real reason why Kid's able to come out unscathed, but we'll talk about it way out in the next segment. And there's the third one. And this is the one I'm most excited about, I could truly see happening the most, right? You see, let's go back in time a little bit and let's rehash the whole purpose of the whole Kid's original goal, right? Kid's original goal, yes, was to take down the Yonko, and maybe he bit off more than he can chew the first time, and that's why he was being completely one-sided. But what happened after that, right? Kid was like, you know what? I realized the power of the New World, and I realized that I'm not strong enough right now to take on not only the fleet, but also a Yonko and his crew. So let me call upon people who are in the same category as me, the worst generation, and let's see if we can galvanize the troops and go take down this other red-headed imposter, because I'm the only one who has red hair or scar in one hand. And he calls Scratchman Apu and Basil Hawkins the Magician. And lo and behold, now we have a correlation of 4 worst generation members, 2 with their own crews, and him and his crew, Kid, Killer, Hawkins, and Apu, going after one red hair Shanks. If they were to go at that moment, they probably would have lost again, and that was the whole reason why Hawkins was like, probably not going to do this, but at the same time, let's hear him out. And then Kaido drops down, and it's just Kaido. And remember, it's just Kaido. And obviously, we know Apu was basically on the other side. Hawkins was like, if I do this, I'm going to die. So it's basically Captain Kid and Killer versus Kaido. So now it's just Kaido. Now imagine if people talk about Shanks being stronger than Kaido, yada yada yada. I have an argument that they're equivalent. I also have an argument that he's a little bit stronger, right? But that's neither here nor there. So if anyone paid attention, right, to post Wano or post the fights with the Yonko, there's a lot of interesting conversations going on, right? So first it was, even before post Wano, it was during Wano. It was essentially the confrontation between Hawkins and Killer. And Killer was basically saying how, I really like your style, because Killer and Kid are really truly pirates. Like, they embody pirates to the bone, whereas Luffy and the Strides are more like, they're pirates, but at the same time, they're not really like how we essentially people would view pirates, and the people of One Piece world would view pirates. They're more of like they're hero pirates. I don't really know how to describe it, but at the same time, they're like anti-heroes maybe. I don't know. But essentially, they're truly embody the lifestyle of a pirate, and that's why Killer was like, I like your style, man. Like you taking Kid's doll and basically making me do damage to Kid, and basically you telling me that you had Kid's doll so that I can't really fight you, and then basically telling me so that you can watch me suffer. I really like that style. It was really interesting. Obviously, how it played out was Killer defeating Hawkins, but then later on we see the post between Hawkins and Drake. Basically, Drake's passed out because the situation with CP0, and then Hawkins is like, yeah, the one person, man, I was talking about was myself, but at the same time, the reason why I was so, obviously I was afraid to fight Kaido, but at the same time, I watched Killer and Kid fight tooth and nail against Kaido, regardless of the situation, regardless of how they were going to fall. And it was really interesting because when I read that panel, it's almost like Hawkins was admiring what Killer told him previously. So Hawkins would always read the cards, and he would basically act upon his actions would follow. His actions were basically based upon what the cards would tell him, right? Whereas Kid and Killer were like, no. We don't base it off of that. We take it into our own hands, and we make an outcome for ourselves. And it was almost like after post Wano, Hawkins sort of was admiring them because he was like, damn, like, even though I read the cards and I was like, I'm not doing this, they probably knew the outcome, but they still try to see if things could change in their own hands. And that's why it was very interesting to me to see him saying that I was the 1% man. And then the reason why I have this picture here by itself is because everyone theorized with this picture, because on the apron it's a little cut off, but he had 3D, but below it says 99%. And people are using this cover story with Kid and the metallic bird and basically saying that, hey, Kid may be the 1% man he was talking about. But essentially, the reason why he was talking about the 1% man was because he knew that he was going to die and he had no chance of surviving. But it would be interesting because he did still have that 1%. And the one thing to look at is where he died, right? Or where he collapsed. See, the situation was he collapsed next to X-Drake, and X-Drake, being a zone, has a faster recovery process than other people without one. And throughout Wano, one thing we tend to overlook is the situation between Hawkins and Drake. And even in that little flashback post Wano, we were showing the relationship between them two. But whenever they would move, they were sort of like moving together. And even in the bathhouse scene, it was sort of showing the dynamic between the two, almost developing a rapport or a communion between the two. So it's almost like, okay, there's something there. Just how X-Drake had Law, and it's almost like what X-Drake had with Law was what Hawkins has with Drake. And because Hawkins dropped there, that 1% chance of him collapsing next to X Drake may be the one thing that actually saved him, right? And I was talking about earlier in my intro as well how Kid has this power. Kid's a magnet, basically, right? Whether it be good or bad, Kid is a person who may attract like bad outcomes, but also good outcomes. Like heck, he was in him trying to make an alliance the first time attracted a bad outcome being defeated by Kaido. But at the same time, he also attracted Luffy, and then they allied together, and then ended up fighting and taking down 2 Yonkos together. But also Law came in to help Kid as well to take down Big Mom. So it's like, wow. And then you think about it a little bit more. So the original alliance was Scratchman, Apu, and Hawkins. So now with Hawkins admiring him and possibly X Drake saving Hawkins, we have one. Now we have one person on the same side as Kid. Maybe if he survives, I do see Hawkins possibly. He has nowhere to go now. His pirate crew is basically like disbanded at this point. Yes, he still has some men, but at the same time, like Hawkins sort of is with them. Like Hawkins is not like separated. I think Hawkins would be. I think if Hawkins had to go anywhere, he would follow Kid. Maybe even stow away on a ship. Maybe. And then X Drake as well. I mean, X Drake is a Marine, so he should probably go with the Marines. But at the same time, the Marines could have get on to shore, and Greenbow came to take down these new pirates, Luffy and Kid and Law. So it's like really interesting to see. Okay, how's it going to play out now that we see that Hawkins may survive, but also Hawkins has like an inkling or like a liking towards Kid, and Kid's original plan was to take down the red-haired pirate Shanks, and here we have it, Kid versus Shanks. So that we have Hawkins liking or having some attraction towards Kid, and then X Drake possibly being there as well. But now the other side of the bargain was Apu. Now, why do I mention Apu, right? See, Apu did betray Kid originally, right? Originally. But now here we have it. Apu was trying to jump ship when Kaido was about to be defeated, or when everything was up, when everything was batshit crazy. Apu was trying to get the hell up out of there. He said, "Yo, X Drake, yo, me and you, yo, I got the numbers. You West Generation. You don't like Kaido. Let's get out of here, right?" And it's interesting because post Wano, right, Kid had this animosity towards Apu for his betrayal, but Kid also understood what was happening, right? Obviously, Kid doesn't like Apu and Hawkins because they just like turned their back on him when everything was going awry. But at the same time, it was on site. The first time we saw it, it was on site. And then when he's chilling at the port with Law, he's like, you know what? Be on guard, guys, because we don't know what's going to happen. But then Apu comes. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, Apu's here. Kid wants revenge. Like, obviously, easy money. Like, here he is with I think it was not Zanki. It was EB. He's like, just the one of the numbers. Yo, just take him out right there. But at the same time, no, he did get upset, but then Apu sort of gave him the newspaper showing the bounties and the new Yonko. He's like, okay, cool. So there's animosity, but there's none, right? And Apu now has no faction. Like Apu basically was a part of, I don't know when he joined Kaido's crew, maybe from the beginning, but at the same time, Kaido's gone. Maybe he has his own crew, cool. But what he does have is the numbers, right? And it's very interesting to see because if Kid is smart, right, and Kid's plan was to take down, or Kid's original plan was to take down Shanks with this alliance, it could be a situation where off screen where we didn't see, because remember, 7 days happened, 7 days. Right, and also we didn't see what happened like post like Apu dropping off the newspaper. All that happened with Green Bull when Kid left from there and they're chilling at the port. A lot of things happened we didn't see. So it could be a situation where that Kid and Apu talked again, and they made bygones be bygones. Because Kid at the same time, like Kid may hate him, but at the same time, Kid is a smart man. And that's what I keep talking about. Kid unlike Luffy, Kid just like Luffy, they're very like unique individuals. They may forgive very easily. They may not forget very easily, but they may forgive. But they're willing to ally with their enemies, which we've seen. If our interests align, we will fight together. Luffy fought together. Luffy, Crocodile fought together. So if their ideals align, it is very likely that these people will fight together. And that's why I'm saying the MC, because he's getting interesting MC treatment. And the reason why I mentioned Apu is because of the numbers. So we have Dorian Broggy pulling up to the fight against Kid. So it's very interesting. Okay, if Dorian Broggy pulling up, obviously we're gonna have giants, right? Are we just gonna have killer one-shot Dorian Broggy? Maybe not. And this is why I'm saying the fleets are really important, because there's 2 ways that we see a giant versus giant battle, like we saw all the way back on Little Garden. Even down to looking at the mast, or the fronts of Kid's ship. It had the same dinosaur head as the one on Little Garden from when Dorian Broggy were fighting for it to begin with. So it could be a situation where we get Hyrodine versus Hyrodine, the new giant versus Dorian Broggy, or we get to see the numbers. Possibly if Kid, Apu, Hawkins, and X-Ray all aligned, which I think may actually happen, the battle of the worst generations coming together to face the new people, right? Like with Law, we have the worst generations members clashing together. So we have one side of when the worst generations are clashing together, and then on the new side, we have the worst generation completely fighting together again against the old era, or not really old, because Shanks not that old, but like against the other opposing power that is Shanks. So now we have Apu with the numbers. People who are the created giants, right, of the Marines that Apu was essentially controlling. Like when you go back in the story, Apu was basically coming with the numbers when they first came there. So Apu has a way to transport the numbers, and if they can't stay in Wano because they're gonna be excommunicated, they gotta go somewhere. And Apu has nowhere to go. There's only 3 places to go after you left. They went Law's fighting Blackbird, he ain't there. Luffy's off at Egghead, he ain't there. The only other place is Elbath, the land of the giants. And Apu possibly, maybe even the situation happened that Apu comes there, not unbeknownst to him that Shanks is there, and he fights alongside Kid. He's like, yo, Kid, I see that you have a problem here. Like, why don't we work together this time? Why don't we talk over that situation we had before? So I can see a situation where Kid's fleet is the accumulation of all the worst generation coming together. But not all, but all the worst generation we haven't seen before. So we have Drake, Kid, Killer, Hawkins, and Apu versus Shanks, his fleet, and the Giants. And that situation makes sense because now we have the numbers going against the Giants. We have Kid possibly going against Red Hair, and then we have Killer going against one of the Redhead pirates. We have Hawkins going against one, Apu going against one. Like, it'd be more of an interesting fight rather than just Kid by himself fighting all these forces, and a force that we haven't seen fight in 20 years. And Oda's going to want to show out with him, so it may be a situation where it may just be another situation where he puts Shanks in there to just show how overwhelmingly strong Shanks is when he just took out Greenbow in like one hit, basically, which didn't really happen. But like Conqueror's Hockey Blast later, Greenbow jumps out of his form. He's like, damn, who the hell is that? I don't want to deal with it, right? So we have a situation where the MC treatment, the fleets, we have 3 fleets: Shanks' fleet, the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, and then possibly Kid creating his own fleet. And there's one more person I want to talk about for Kid's fleet, and that is one Yarouge. You see, the very interesting thing about Yarouge is that we have no idea where he is, right? Last time we saw him was on Balloon Terminal after fighting Kaido, but the interesting thing about Yarouge, right? We don't necessarily know where Kid went after leaving Fishman Island, but I keep having this inkling that possibly he went to Raijin Island, and on Raijin Island he sort of found out more about maybe Poneglyphs, and that's how he sort of got into the mix of Poneglyphs. But at the same time, Kid also had underworld ties, so that may be where he got his information from, but we have no idea. But Yarouge going to Raijin Island and meeting Casa, who gave an umbrella for him to traverse the island. Kid being the Magnet Man, being able to possibly, the only other person besides Luffy who could possibly traverse the island unaffected because of the power of the Devil Fruit. Be interesting. But then after that, we have other people going to Big Mom's territory besides him, besides Yarouge and Kid. But at the same time, Kid and Yarouge both went to Big Mom territory. We don't know what Kid went to Big Mom's territory for, but remember, he went there and got something, and that's why Big Mom was mad, and then he left. So Yarouge possibly Raijin Island with Kid, but we don't know. Yarouge definitely Whole Cake Island with Kid, not together, but they both went there. And then after that, we have the Balloon Terminal, which is literally right above, because Kaido dropped down, right above Kid's hideout, and then Yarouge is there. So then it's like a lot of questions, a lot of like eerie things going on with Yarouge, but basically he's always where Kid is. And then you have Elbath, and then you have the giant tree that goes, the Yggdrasil tree that goes right up into the sky. Could be a situation where Yarouge is above looking down, or maybe Yarouge also wanted to, remember, Yarouge also probably wants to take out a Yonko too, because when he went, and the dialogue between that, and during Brule's flashback was like, it's not that easy to see Big Mom, I guess. And then it's probably the same situation with him and Shanks. Like, maybe he wants to take down the Yonko too, because at the same time, like, yes, he is from probably one of the Birkins, but at the same time, he's a pirate. He probably has aspirations. Do we know what those aspirations are? No, but at the same time, if things align, people do too. So if Yarouge is there with his crew, maybe it's just Kid and Yarouge. They fight Shanks because at the same time, they have a goal. Kid wants to beat Shanks. Yarouge wants to fight an emperor. There we go. We're all basically all these other worst generation pirates are fighting either fighting or Yonko territory. Yarouge is like, I am too far behind, and Yarouge may have one of the most important parts because he's from Berko. Anel's on the moon. His Devil Fruit ties to Retribution. Who knows, right? And then Retribution is the biggest thing because right now that is like the whole theme of right now Shanks versus Kid. Kid saying like, I may die, but only if I lose. But Kid is wants retribution. At the same time, I mean, that was sort of what Lucky was saying. Like, obviously, Kid is furious, but he's definitely mad at you, Ben Back, because you're one to talk, because you're probably the one that took his arm. And Kid's probably going to want retribution. And that is sort of tied to the theme that Yarouge has. So it's very interesting to see if that plays out. Worst Generation coming together to fight Shanks. Then you would have 6 Worst Generation members, or maybe just 2. You'd have Killer, Kid, Hawkins, Apu, Drake, and Yarouge, or maybe just Kid and Yarouge, but who knows, right? And then, last but not least, 2 other things. Let's talk about A Way Out. The Way Out is very simple, right? Because Kid was the one to take down Big Mom, and the Giants had this whole animosity towards Big Mom, or hostility towards Big Mom, because everything happened during the Lunar Solstice, I believe. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember the exact name, but like when that situation when she basically murked about a bunch of Giants, right? They hate her. They don't like her. And then she was also trying to ally with Loki to then get the Giants under her wing, but then her daughter didn't show up, so then that just adds a little bit more animosity to the whole situation. And then Kid's like, yo, listen, y'all fighting with him? He's a chief? But yo, what about me? If he the chief, he a Yonko, he's that strong, why don't he can handle the smoke. He could have went and took down Big Mom for you guys. But you know what? I did it. I did it. And say the new Giant Pirates are there, like I did it with your boy, with Luffy. It was me. Obviously it was me and Law, but the same, come on. So A Way Out would be the situation where they realize that it's Eustass Captain the Kid, the man who took down the person they wanted to take down for a very long time. And they're like, you know what, guys? Shanks, I get it. How about you guys do a one-on-one duel? Just you two, all right? Everyone else is just one-on-one duel. Whoever loses, we go bygones be bygones, and then you come on the island, and we'll talk things through. Because remember, Kid is looking for the man marked by flames, and the man marked by flames, as we all probably know now, is maybe, let's say maybe, because we still don't know yet, but everyone has it's like a 99.99999% chance, like on his shirt, that it's Drago de Sol, and he's on Elbath. And if Kid's going there to meet him, it could be a situation where he has to meet him, right? Or maybe they're just putting the name out, or they just put the name out there because the Straw Hats are later on going to meet him, which technically they are, because Robin is definitely going to go see him at one point. Usopp definitely has to go there at one point. And it'd be interesting if Usopp somehow, some way, Esper, makes his way to Elbath, and that's the battle between Yasopp and Usopp. So take Yasopp completely out of the equation. Who knows? But last but not least, let's talk about potential. The man uses Captain D Kid, my captain, has probably the highest ceiling in the series right now because of his Devil Fruit, but also because of things he lacks. And the thing he lacks the most right now, maybe he does have it, but we haven't seen it, is hockey. Maybe, and right now, like, the way things are going, like right now, like obviously, I'm not saying, he's just gonna learn advanced observation, Right now, it would make the least amount of sense to get advanced observation against a man who observation really won't work on too well. But maybe we have Conqueror's Hockey and Armament. So now, the reason why this is very interesting is because, as we know throughout One Piece, a couple things. One, you could turn something that is very amicable, very weak, and if you apply hockey to it, you can make it very strong. With Zoro's swords, the reason why his swords were being broken, like Mio told about, first he said, any chip on a swordsman's blade is a great dishonor, right? I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, if you had known hockey, this wouldn't have happened. And the biggest complaint that Kid had was that everything on fight with is scrap metal. God damn. Obviously, if he were to get better metal, everything's off the table. You give him more power metal, you give him the drunken iron ore, which may happen. I thought it was going to happen in Wano, but may happen now. But then, even if he's using scrap metal, he applies hockey to it. That just makes it jump that much exponentially. So he's out here just doing physical damage with just straight force, just the force and sheer strength that he has. And I was talking recently in my stream saying that I think Kid is probably one of the most physically gifted people in the series. Like, if he's as strong, I think he's maybe a little bit physically stronger, not like winning in a fight stronger than Luffy, but like physically stronger than Luffy. Because when you look at this, right, and when you watch Kid and throughout the anime shows it better, he's basically pulling and dragging the metal at all times. When we talk about iron sharpened iron, how about basically lifting and carrying these tons and tons of metal at all times? And like I said, the anime shows it better, but basically the hand is always weighing him down, right? And then in Udon Prison, Luffy probably could have did it with one hand, but it's the way his hands are chained, he had to use two. He was carrying the block with one hand. Like, Kid is truly physically gifted, and the reason why he's able to do this damage, yes, he's using metal, but at the same time, he's using physical force that he's applying, whether it be compression from both sides, whether it be Punk Gibson, not Punk Gibson, I think Punk Gibson. I can't remember the names of the move right now. Or maybe be just him throwing these metal punches. This is all his physical strength with no hockey. And even so much so that he's able to break Big Mom's ribs with just his sheer force of using metal. Now you apply hockey to that. God damn, that's a different story. And then you apply emission to that. So the force he's applying, being able to shoot it out, god damn. But then you take it a step further because he does have conqueror's hockey too. You give him internal destruction. You have armament, advanced armament, basically emission, and then you have internal destruction. At that point, Kid has already closed the gap with Luffy exponentially. I think if Luffy's at 96, Kid would be at a 95 with just armament. Just armament. Because he at that point he'd be able to do damage. Obviously, I think Luffy would be at 96.5 because he has Thick Man, but also just gear second, so he's pretty fast. And advanced observation, obviously, too. But then you give him advanced conquerors on top of that, and he's able to conquerors coat this metal that he uses. Goddamn. At that point, it would be like if Luffy's 96.5, Kid is 96. Because at that point, like, he's physically at that level where he can do everything. Like, because he's able to, his power output is already there, right? Without hockey. You give him hockey, a bloom. He instantly is able to do a massive amount of damage. You have to avoid every single attack from Kid, because if you don't, it's probably a KO with one hit. Honestly, right? But that's a lot of speculation. And also talking about him getting new metal, as we see, it plays a big part in the story because, as you see, we have the grades of swords. So we know that the sword that is more durable, the sword that is better, like the Supreme Owazamoto, or the Supreme grade swords, they're top notch. They're top tier weapons in the story. So metal does play a big factor going into the series. So if you give Kid good metal, his power is also going to increase as well. And then I also want to talk about potential, because I think Kid, after watching Luffy and Law fight, I think he's going to realize more things about his Devil Fruit. Obviously, I think he already realized hockey. He realized that he needs to get it. And then we had 7 days from when the fight ended with Big Mom until we saw him again. Could have learned it from someone, like, yo, he'll go, I won, like, I helped you guys with Big Mom. Can you, like, show me what you told Luffy? I heard that, y'all. Remember, I was there too. Remember, I was in Udon prison too. Like, I was there. That you wanted to show me a thing or two? Like, you don't know. But also talking about the potential of his Devil Fruit, because Kid's power is just like magnetism, I guess. Like, he's the magnet fruit. And the thing is, with that side ability, essentially, he can magnetize other things. And I was talking to my friend, I really don't know too much about how it works out. But at the same time, you can also magnetize water. Water's paramagnetic, so it's possible you can magnetize water as well. Or magnetize other things, because I just saw he can magnetize wood. And if Law, when he first Blackbeard used Awakening right from the start, we have no idea how the situation may play out with Kid. And it's very interesting to see that Oda's basically having this fight play out at sea. That's the biggest part. It's not on land. So, and we don't know how much metal Kid has with him. And if that's the case, it's going to be very hard for Kid to fight a Yonko fleet with Shanks' crew, plus the Giants, in water with no metal, with no hockey. Doesn't make sense. At that point, you can't even show off Shanks' power, because it's going to be completely one-sided again. But I don't think that's going to happen. And that's why I think it's very interesting to see Kid's potential is probably exponential, because he realized other things he can do with his Devil Fruit. He realized how creative Luffy was with Gear 4th. He realized how creative Law was with Re-Room. He's like, maybe just making things bigger is not what I need to do. Heck, I'll talk about it a couple times, right? And how the magnet weighs him down. And people talk about possibly using iron within his body, and then maybe able to control the iron in people's body. Cool, that'll be interesting. But how about him realizing Luffy does? And remember, Kid's a very smart person. He's able to create a railgun, create these figures instantly. He's able to possibly maybe maneuver the iron around in his body, but basically he creates like a magnetic field, and he's able to attract himself throughout that field. And because of that, he's able to move faster rather than being hindered by the weight of his arm at all times. Maybe he's able to pull himself faster, and that's how he moves around in like a magnetic field. And like, that's his Gear 2nd, because we already see his Punk Gibson form basically shows him in like a Gear 4 situation. So maybe he can use like a Gear 2nd, being able to pull himself closer to pieces of metal around in a magnetic field, or maybe just like pull himself in a magnetic field because his body has iron in it, or like pull, repel, stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe being able to completely coat himself in metal, and then coat that metal in hockey, and then there you go, you have like a Iron Pirate situation or General Frankie situation. Like, I think Kid's potential is so exponential, because we just saw just the basic of it versus a Yonko, but here we have Kid being so confident to fight a Yonko and his fleet now with what? We ain't seen nothing. So we have Kid possibly using hockey. We got Kid possibly showing different applications of his devil fruit. We have Kid possibly magnetizing other things, or Kid possibly getting a fleet. And I think Kid's potential is so exponential. And then the reason why I put potential last is because I want to talk about one more thing. Guys, I'm hyped, as you can tell. And this is just a Kid video. Wait until I drop a Geezer video. Goddamn. If you guys are still watching at this point in the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because yeah, you have to at this point. Okay. And the last thing I want to talk about is devil fruits again, obviously, but what we saw with Luffy and Law so far. So with Luffy, his drawback was he had many drawbacks with the devil fruit. First, he had to realize he had to train for so long just to be able to throw a singular punch. Then with Gear 2nd, it was basically cutting his lifespan in half. Then with Gear 3rd, he would turn small. Then with Gear 4th, basically he would after Gear 4th, he can't use hockey for 10 minutes, right? And then Law was basically in the beginning, like, he didn't have it awakened, and his stamina was sapped fast as hell when he used the devil fruit. Now Law, like Kid. So we see Kid, like almost every person we've seen so far in the devil fruit, like the worst generation between them two, or even a Pooh and sort of Hawkins too. Like maybe not X Drake. Yeah, but basically most of the worst generation we've seen have like some drawback with their devil fruit. But Kid, we haven't seen the drawbacks, right? And one of the drawbacks I just mentioned was the fact that he gets weighed down by the metal he has to carry, but at the same time, it's very reliant on metal too. And I think that's the biggest drawback for Kid, is that if Kid understands that his body, he's the magnet fruit, and realize that obviously the magnetic properties of being able to attract metal is much higher than other things, but realize that he can not only magnetize other things, but also attract other things as well. I think that might be what helps Kid leapfrog into the next level of fighting prowess, because his drawback is his limited knowledge, which is interesting because Kid's really smart, his limited knowledge on what he wants to do with his devil fruit. I think the biggest problem is his drawback is he's not as creative as he can be. I'm not talking about bending iron in people's blood. I'm talking about strictly magnetizing other things, maybe making other figures, but also the biggest drawback is essentially the metal that he has. And if he were to get better metal, he would be better. I already talked about it previously just now, but that's the biggest thing with Kid. His biggest drawback is the limitations that he puts on himself when it comes to magnetizing things and things that he attracts towards him. At the same time, a lot of the time, the biggest thing about Kid, and what I realize a lot of the times, that Kid's power is basically creating a magnetic field, but at the same time, he just makes it so that it's only attracted to one part of him, right? Like when he's drawing metal, when he's pulling metal, it's him pulling the metal with just one hand. When he's doing a punk, when he's attacking, he's basically using with one hand. Obviously, the bull was like a whole thing, but he had both his hands in there. With Punk Vice, he used both of them in Punk Gibson. But at the same time, when he tracked metal, he only uses one hand. And the interesting thing I wanted to point out was the situation with Big Mom and her homies with the metal beams. Essentially, at that point, I can't tell if it was just his arms. Maybe the anime might make it better, but it almost made it seem like his whole body was a magnet and it was drawing things in more, right? And that may be a situation where that actually happens, right? And so it'd be interesting to see if he uses his whole body as a magnet, and that sort of like makes things that aren't like even just metal come towards him, and so he can sort of like attract it as well. Maybe even like assigns the wood, right? And then it attracts everything to that. Like, the thing is, if he can assign magnetic properties to almost anything he touches with a sign, it could be a situation where he can attract almost anything at that point, even water, like I just mentioned. But like I said, that's a lot of headcanon. But at the same time, I think Kid's potential is exponential. And I think because he's fighting red-haired Shanks, because he's fighting the Fleet, because he's fighting the Giants, I think we're going to see a lot of the potential that we have not yet seen with Kid. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen next, right? I'm very excited, man. Like, obviously, like, you can say what you want, but my Captain D Kid is out here fighting a Yonko, maybe with his own fleet, maybe with his own two hands, maybe with just him and Killer throwing bows with all the whole red hair main crew. Who knows, man? But I'm excited to see what's gonna happen, because Shanks versus Kid is what we all wanted to see. A lot of people are like, yeah, you get to see Shanks fight, but at the same time, I'm excited to see Shanks fight, but I'm more excited to see what Kid can do to put up a good fight. I'm not saying Kid's gonna win. I did say Kid's gonna win. I have my money on Kid, but at the same time, I have my money on Kid for other reasons. Maybe not winning the fight, but basically finding a way to put up a great fight, or maybe find a way of avoiding the major outcome of this conclusion of like him dying or him just losing his Poneglyphs. There's a lot more potentials that I want to put out there, but at the same time, I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm going to close out with that, guys. I don't even know how long when it comes to Kid, I could talk for a while. I think we've been talking for like 40-something minutes. But I appreciate you guys staying and watching the rest of the whole video. Hopefully you guys have questions. So leave a comment down below and tell me what you guys think. What do you expect from Kid versus Shanks? What do you expect from Kid? What do you expect from Dory and Bragi? Do you expect someone to come and stop the fight? Leave a comment below, let me know. But like I say at the end of every single video, hit the like button, subscribe button, and the bell button to come back next time and remind about whenever I drop a video. Get right, don't get left, and remain polished, y'all. Until next time, stay beautiful. Peace.